Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. Patriots Against CPS Corruption invites you to attend our March for Texas Children. DFPS has failed the families of Texas. The Texas Special Committee on DFPS has also failed to hear the parents and their children. Time to make our voices heard. Surround yourself with those on the same mission as you. Join us on the March for Our Children, September 21st, 2022, starting at 1 p.m. at 701 West 51st Street, Austin, Texas, 78751. I have Patriot Mom and Dad back on with me again, and they would like to make an announcement in regards to this march, and I welcome you back to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Most definitely.
So I just wanted to bring some, I don't know what the right word is, awareness or an update. I'd like to bring an update to the listeners and just let them know that we did have a representative who was with the DNC who had initially told us that they were going to, get the media for us, get thousands of people to attend the march, help get the word out, et cetera, et cetera. Well, last minute, just this afternoon, as a matter of fact, this person reneged on what they had promised us and kind of left us high and dry. So we are asking, thank you, darling. We are asking for anyone who is interested in attending the march to come to the march and let your voices be heard. This was never about politics. It was never about any of the current issues that are going on in our country right now. This was about being one united voice for the most innocent among us. One united voice to show our leaders that we will not be divided. No effort to divide us will accomplish or come into fruition, because we are all coming together with the same experience, the same traumas, and we are just calling on anyone and everyone who is desperate to have their voices heard. Did you have something?
This is very important that people attend this because, as I said before, if this has not happened to you, anything can. Anything can happen. So
Yes.
even if you haven't had anything go bad with, we'll say, CPS, but if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone.
Yes, and that's been proven throughout history. Georgia, they had a senator, Nancy Schaefer. She was a very huge and powerful voice against the corruption in the CPS arena. And she ended up being murdered. And they made it look like a murder-suicide between her husband and herself. And it just, these people are evil to the core. And just in Texas alone, having 40,000 children in the foster care system, that is a clear, intentional, and disgusting act of aggression towards the people, but mainly the children, because these children don't know what's going on. So we're asking anybody, everybody, if you're hearing this, if you've seen the flyer, take a day off, come out to the march, show your support, and show these people that this trafficking, this illegal removal of children from the family, illegal termination of parental rights will not be tolerated. We need to start holding these people accountable.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And Mom Patriot quoted me Martin Luther King, which was exceptional.
If you want, I actually took a snapshot of his quote. I'm going through my phone right now, and I will read it to the people to add to the very deep importance that this is. While I'm looking for this, I would like to remind everyone that a child cannot consent. A child cannot and does not have any control over strangers who are trying to take them from their families. A child is always going to see the good in somebody, and they don't know the difference between this person is a danger and this person is trustworthy, because there's a lot of us who have even told our children, if you see a badge, you can trust that person. If you are scared or you see something, tell someone who's wearing a badge. And 9 times out of 10, anybody who's wearing a badge, and yes, this does include a CPS worker, some of them wear badges, most of them have credentials, but you know, we tell our children that they can trust these people. And I found the quote from Martin Luther King, and I would like everyone to listen to the very deep importance of this, because the time is now. The ultimate tragedy is not the oppression and cruelty by the bad people, but the silence over that by the good people. Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And that
Well
quote
said.
means so much to me, because it is absolutely true that if you know something is happening and you say nothing, well, I don't want to say that, but you say nothing, it's just as bad as being a part of doing those things, you know. And I'm trust to be
and
heard.
it
Sorry.
will perpetuate it. It will just perpetuate and keep it going. I had interviewed Jay Rosenthal September 16th, season 3, episode 108. He was a CPS whistleblower, but he's talking about this alternative response that's being pitched by child welfare as a way of addressing the disparities in the child welfare system on a case-by-case basis. And cases can be assigned to the alternate method of CPS involvement. So it's supposed to sound really good. But what it's going to do, and within 5 years, it's already in some states, but it's going to be full force within 5 years, is you're going to have CPS at your house maybe 3 times a week, maybe twice a week, maybe for 2 hours at a time, twice a week. This is why these marches are so important.
Well, and the other thing too is it is so important that everyone understands that no one is exempt. It doesn't matter. The common misconception is that they only go after minorities and people who suffer from poverty. That, while that does happen to be the higher caseloads on the part of CPS, it is not the end all be all of who they target. Yes. They target sheriffs. They target our vets. If they don't like senators, they'll go after the senator, which I wanted to make very publicly known. Our governor is a native to Texas, born and raised in Texas, and he adopted his child. If he adopted his child while he lives here in Texas, that means that DFPS would have been the ones to approve that adoption. You can, I will actually send you the snapshot that I took, because we're in Texas. Everybody knows who our governor is, but I don't want to say the name. So I'll send you the snapshot that I took from the blog, but it really begs the question, and this is just my personal question: is he complacent, or is he aiding and abetting the department? Because he just approved $4.4 billion for DFPS for 2022 to 2023, which is a $200 million increase from last year's budget. He was called as a respondent to one of our judges' courtrooms back in February. And I personally have to assume that that is due to the Bastrop County child trafficking incident, where they took nude photos of 2 minor girls and sold them on Cash App for drugs and money. I don't know if I sent you the video, Marianne, but there was a DFPS worker out of Houston. Fox 26 reported it. A 14-year-old girl said that she was hungry, and the DFPS worker said, quote, "You should hoe yourself out."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, these things are being very publicly, exposed, and no one is doing anything. In fact, I saw a news report out of Waco 2 Thursdays ago, where Waco PD arrested 7 people who were involved in a human trafficking prostitution ring, and there's still too much silence. I mean, we need to get together because children are not paychecks. Our
Mm-hmm.
children are not paychecks. Our children are not livestock. Our children are not test subjects. Our children are not commodities. Our children are our children. The
Mm-hmm.
word our, in my opinion, is very offensive when anybody who works for the state uses it. I do not share my children with you. I do not co-parent with you.
Mm-hmm.
Our children are the people's children. They are not your children. So the word our needs to be taken out of your vocabulary. You can say that the children are our future, because that is true, or the children are our most innocent citizens, or whatever. But my children, they're not half yours. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
co-parent with you. So I encourage anyone who's listening to this podcast today to please research. Go to your state and look up your state budget. Look up who gets a cut of Title 4D funding. A lot of common misconception is that Title 4 is the problem. Title 4 is not the only problem. It is part of it, yes, but it is not the problem. You have the Adoption and Safe Families Act that was signed into effect in 1997 by the Clintons. You have CAPTA. You have, of course, Title 4. And you have these family court judges who I have to assume there was one judge that I read about out of Hidalgo, Texas, who had been accepting bribes from his team. What they would do is they would put money in 6 packs of I'll just say 6 packs. They would put money in the bottom of a 6 pack, and then they would give it to him to try to win favor in their cases. Well, he was sent to federal prison because due to obstruction of justice and accepting bribes. And if I'm correct, during one of the hearings that and you'll remember this,
Yes.
During one of the hearings that was held, somebody testified that DFPS pays their judges and their attorneys.
It was actually from the representative from the Health and Human Services Commission. She stated that, yes, DFPS does allocate monies to the judges and the attorneys for the family court cases.
Well, don't you think that's an automatic violation of their anti-bribery statements?
It's a violation of ethics.
Well, that too, but I mean, it's a violation of their bonding code. It's a violation of their oath. It's a violation of their exactly, of their anti-bribery statement. Yep. The other thing too is these judges work for the state. So if they're being paid by the state, why do they need to be paid for a party that they preside over cases for? That's an automatic violation of your anti-bribery statement. And I think that judge who got caught for accepting bribes should have been the catalyst for this state to open up a statewide investigation on every judge. I don't care if you are a bankruptcy judge. I don't care if you're civil, criminal, federal. Everyone should have been investigated, because if one judge is doing it, Texas is a big place. If one judge is doing it, chances are there's more than that one. He was just the one that got caught. Mm-hmm. So, and it's like they say, no one is above the law. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'm sorry, Marianne.
No, you're fine. You're doing great. And that's the problem, is everyone thinks they're above the law.
Well, and then you've got politicians who sign bills that lower the penalty for pedophiles. Did you hear about that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it makes you wonder, are they a part of it? Are they signing these bills into laws to protect them when they're no longer in office? Like, are they part of the problem? You have to think about this. I'm a thinker. I think about everything and I question everything, and it would behoove every American to do the same, to question everything, to look at what's going on around you, to really read between the lines, and to really, sometimes it's a crash course in what's actually happening. It's like, watch this hand, but don't look at what the other hand is doing, So, yeah, but
Yes,
I
this.
will go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say this is very important. This is heartbreaking, and this march will go on tomorrow, no matter
Yes.
what.
Yes. And I need our fellow Americans to understand that our children are the target.
Mm-hmm.
Our children have been the target for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And very little are we getting, just a little bit of a trickle of exposing and but it's just not enough. It's not reaching the ears that need to hear it. And I think Patriot Dad has something to say, so I'm going to put him on very quick.
Okay.
So I want to motivate everyone in the U.S., whoever it be, whatever state, walk of life you're from. Everyone's got to understand the CPS arena is a $12 billion a year arena. And Texas only makes for 1/4 of that. You got other states that are stealing children and it's going unnoticed.
Texas alone got $20 million more than the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah. If you know about it happening in your state, speak up, set up a rally like we are, get your voices heard, because otherwise it's just going to keep happening. More families are going to suffer, more children are going to be trafficked. And it does happen over state lines too. Our children were trafficked to Las Vegas, then they were illegally adopted and then trafficked to another state. We're not going to put that out there because we don't want them to know we're on to their game. But it's best to speak up, because otherwise they're just going to keep making money off of the future of our nation, and they're going to keep brainwashing the children, coercing them. And who's the ones making the money off of it? We don't see a dime. We're actually paying in court fees to fight this. And that's how they make their money. On top of that, they make it off of what's it called? Not just the Title IV. That's just money from the government, but they also make it off of our taxes.
Yes.
There's a huge chunk of it that comes out of our taxes.
I have something to add.
Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
One thing I would like to add and bring awareness to is your taxpayer money, our taxpayer money, is paying these people to kidnap our children. We are paying them to kidnap our children. It's not, think about it. The taxpayer money goes to funding the state for the state's needs. So that is our taxpayer money, if I understand it correctly, doesn't it go to helping to fund our police and all of that? Is that where
that? But it also comes out of Social Security for the child welfare.
Yes. Well, my point is, if our taxpayer money is funding our police department, why is it then that people who are far more capable of knowing the difference between abuse and not abuse are not being able to make these calls? And then you have people who are, number one, not properly trained, number two, not licensed to perform lawful investigations, and they also do not have any experience in the child behavioral aspect. Why are we paying these people to make calls on our children and what we say or what we do with our children? How is it any of their business? Anybody who thinks that CPS is, you know, I will tell you right now, their mission is honorable, their mission, but the execution is corrupt. The execution is, there is no education in how to execute proper procedures when you are dealing with a family. And even if there was proper education and training on how to deal with the family, they do not do that. CPS believes they're above the law. In fact, in their handbooks, it states that they don't need a warrant. In order to search or seize anything, it doesn't matter if it's your property or a family member, they must have a warrant. It's called due process. So when they come in and they tell you that they have the authority to take your child, which they don't, they are violating your rights and your child's rights under the color of law. And what about these doctors that are their doctors? You can't choose your own doctor, your own pediatrician for your child. You have to go with theirs. What about them? Whatever happened to their code of ethics? First, do no harm. Whatever happened to that? So it is my opinion as both an advocate and a mother that any state leader, any person within the realm of CPS who does nothing, who knows that there's an issue and does absolutely nothing, is complacent, and they are a part of the problem, and they are further perpetuating the abuse that happens to children and families that they are charged with protecting. That's my opinion.
Yes. No, and you're correct. You're correct. Well, I'm sorry all this happened, but you know, we had to get this out to everybody so they're aware. And oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I got to thinking after this person reneged, I got to thinking that it could have possibly have been a political football. Our march and our desire to protect all children and all families, regardless of this family's structure or, you know, their foundation or their walk of life or anything. Our goal to support all is a good goal, and it's a good sorry, it's basically, it's a good attempt at showing that there is still humanity in this country. And it's a good foundation to show that we the people will not be divided. And I think that because it was such a good idea and a good goal, I think that's why eventually at the time this person wanted to help us, but
Whoa.
here you go, Patriot Dad.
And honestly, I welcome
I can't talk.
any person holding a seat position, whether it be the governor, senator, and it doesn't matter what side you're on. I don't care. If y'all want to join us and pick up the ball from our hands and carry it forward, you are doing our country a great service. And you are aiding in the safety of our children. This needs to be stopped. Any representative, I'll put it this way. I'll call from the president on down. I don't care what seat you're in. I'm willing to sit right across the table from you and work with you to help stop this or correct it. All that needs to happen is the dialogue.
Right. So this march will still go on, and I hope you have a very large turnout.
I hope so too.
I will be going live on Patriot Against CPS.
Oh, my Patriot Dad said he will be going live on Patriot Against CPS, which is a YouTube channel. I also wanted to let our leaders know any state leader who is listening, the only way for you to write the laws that properly protect the people is to hear from the victims. If you take the opinions from people who are paid to give those opinions and wear the titles permitting them to give those opinions, you will never have a just and firm foundation to protect the people that you represent. I need also for our leaders to understand that we, the people, are the state. We elected you, to protect us. We elected you to put into place laws that would benefit us. We trusted you, and that is why we elected you.
Mm-hmm. And the sad part is we trusted you.
Yes, we trusted you. But I need the people to know that this march it's out of love. It's out of compassion. It's out of the deepest recesses of our hearts. And both Patriot Dad and I firmly believe that if we do not do our part to protect you and your children and your families, we are doing nothing to protect our own.
Mm-hmm.
And we need you and you need us. So let's be that family that our children whose voices were stolen, let's be that voice that they don't have, that was taken from them.
Well said. Well said. If anyone wants to contact you, how can you be contacted?
I will tell you, admittedly, we are inundated with a lot of things. My husband he's in construction, and as many people know, construction is very seasonal, so work has been touch and go. We've had we've had to look into more employment. Mm-hmm. But Patriot Dad said the best way to get in contact with us about the march is on our YouTube channel, which is Patriot Against CPS.
Okay. I will put that in the podcast notes. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
I feel like I didn't do very well today. I'm very nervous today.
Well, you had upsetting news. Hey, cut yourself a break, There'll
be drawbacks.
Yeah, there's going to be drawbacks. Oh yes, one thing I did mention to you. Patriot Dad and I do plan to run for office in the future. We do not know which offices as of yet that we plan to run for. But I will tell our community right now that we are not politicians. We do not have any ulterior motives except to protect the people, period. Mm-hmm. Our goal is to protect the people and to ensure that laws are passed to do that, to ensure that no rights are trampled on. All of our civil rights remain intact, and that includes our children's rights. Mm-hmm. I would like to tell you, by the way, I did talk to a senator's office the other day, and please forgive me, this goes out to the community, but please forgive me. I understand that this is a very controversial topic, but I contacted one of our senators and I said, I think it's honorable that you guys are, it's honorable and noble that you are doing your part to protect the unborn. I said, but what about the children who have been born? What about the families who love them? What about the families that they are stripped from? I said, do you care about them? What about the ones who are living? What about the ones who, who are being trafficked? Do you care about them? And I didn't get an answer. I just got silence. So I don't know if that's telling or if that is indicative of, I see your point. I don't know. but it is very true, because it just seems that they're putting all this stock into everything but the families and the children. And they need to remember that if it wasn't for the family, they wouldn't be in office. They need to remember that, because I believe that all families, I honestly, any and every family, I believe that the family is the backbone of this country. That's what I believe. That's
and families need to parent the way they need to parent and not have CPS in their life. Oh, most definitely. Well, hey, don't jump off.
okay.
Slam the Gavel's a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here with Patriot Mom and Dad here in the future and other exciting guests. Thank you both.
Thank you for having us.